And good evening and welcome to another edition of the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, online at bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO. With Jeff Gress, I'm Chad Holmes, and we got ourselves another big show. In fact, not one, not two, but three special guests coming up in the next 2 hours. We're with you until 8 o'clock here on this snowy Wednesday evening. Coming up at 6:20, we'll be joined by Stevens Point Area Senior High School boys basketball coach Jon Krull. Then at 7 o'clock, our student-athlete guest from the Central Wisconsin Storm and the Wausau West soccer team, senior Mackenzie Bautc. And then at 7:20, we'll get a chance to talk some brackets and boys basketball with the guy that's, I think, known as the top boys basketball writer in the state of Wisconsin, Mark Miller, coming up at 7:20. Maybe the second, behind Jeff Gress.
No, he's well ahead of me. It's good to be here, though. I mean, we made it. It's snow and all.
Of course. It would take a complete annihilation of the earth for us not to have this show. So
dedication.
Absolutely. Maybe. Let's jump right in. Let's talk about boys high school basketball. Before we talk about the brackets, let's talk about where we stand. Wisconsin Valley Conference boys last week. Last Thursday night was Wausau East losing a non-conference game against Lakeland, 83-73. Braden Wiechek, 23. Will Fortier, 22 for the T-Birds. Jack Cayley and Jaden Garrett, 15. Last Friday, Marshfield took their final step towards the Wisconsin Valley Conference Championship, knocking off Wausau West 45-35. Owen Hansen, 17 for the Tigers. Cole Nelson, 13 for the Warriors. Tight one in Rapids. Stevens Point, in a low-scoring affair, knocked off the Lincoln Red Raiders 46-43. Grant Chadenah had 21 points. Cade Youngworth had 15 for Wisconsin Rapids. DC Everest pulled away from Merrill late, 87-71. Marcus Hall and Cohen Preby, 34 and 31 points, respectively. 65 of the 87 between those two very talented players. Braden Pieper, 21. Carter Body, 15 for the Blue Jays. Saturday, really good non-conference win for Stevens Point. 60-59 over Eau Claire Memorial. Grant Chadenah, 34 points. Ariel Council Jr., 16 for the Panthers. Monday night, DC Everest, they led Rhinelander 36-6 at halftime, went on to defeat the Hodags 73-42. Marcus Hall, 22. Cade Felch, 17 for Everest. I was in Wittenberg on Monday night in a good win for the Wausau West Warriors. They knocked off Whitburn 74-46. Brett Butala, 17 points. Beckett Teskey, 14. Lucas Hager, 11. Michael Miller, 11 for the Chargers. Wausau East snapped a losing streak, defeating Colfax 69-57. Jesse Napgezik, 14. Jaden Garrett, 12. Charlie Cayley, 11 for the Lumberjacks. And then last night, one conference game, Stevens Point knocked off East 73-59. Again, Grant Chadenah, the outstanding sophomore, 17 points. Jack Dickelman had 15 for Ariel Council Jr. Jesse Napgezik, 20. Jack Haley, 14 for the Jacks. And Shawano knocked off Merrill in a non-conference game, 65-42. Well, I guess looking after the results from the last week, I think it's nice that we have Coach Jon Krull tonight because the Stevens Point had a really good week. Marshfield struggled a bit offensively, but they held West to 35 to earn the big win in the conference as well. But what's your take on the WVC?
That's what I was going to lead into with. It was SPASH. I know it's not a big win over Rapids in terms of the point total for where the two teams stand in the conference, but squeezing out some of these tight ones, being in that type of atmosphere where you got to kind of battle down to the wire is going to be a big deal going forward and getting your team playoff ready. So for SPASH, the win at Rapids, followed by the 1-point win at Eau Claire Memorial. I followed that up with last night's win against East. Some good wins leading in the playoffs for them, and they're continuing to get point production. I was able to see them play a little bit last night. Definitely shoot the deep ball, and they like to get up and down the floor and kind of have that balanced attack. And not a lot, a bunch of 6'1" guys doing the damage on the outside. For Everest, I think they continue to roll pretty well. Big win over Merrill. Obviously held Rhinelander in check very easily, and getting production out of the players that you thought were going to do the damage with Hall leading the way on stuff like that. Marshfield, I think it's respectable that you held West to 35. That's a good total defensively for a team that's looking to have that stat under control, and they did that. And but not a lot of action here in these last couple games, in these last couple days. So until they roll in the playoffs, they're kind of done. They ended a little early, and I don't know if that's always the best route too, with the way your schedule might work out, where you're sitting dead a little bit or a little idle for a couple days when you want to be rolling with a lot of momentum into the playoffs. As far as West and East, kind of jostling games, a loss here, a win there. Maybe looking for some consistency down the stretch in the games they have that they have
West
left
has
there.
to shoot the ball,
right,
because defensively they played well enough to beat Marshfield. I was talking to Coach Lemons on Monday before the game against Wittenberg, and he just said could not make the shots, and that's been the issue for West. When they're hitting shots, they're a very dangerous team. When they're not hitting shots, it's a struggle.
Well, right, and I think that's been kind of the thing that we mentioned. They can shoot well offensively. They're going to be right in those games because their defense tends to hold them there. And I think the biggest thing is going to see because a lot of these teams in the Valley have that opening game where they're the higher seed. So it'll be interesting to see after they get through, if they should win the one they should win, where they're the higher seed for the most part of these teams, and then into that second round, hopefully propel themselves to try to get the next one.
And again, it's going to be very interesting because I'm interested to talk to Mark Miller about the perception of the Wisconsin Valley Conference, because Stevens Point, with a really good season, the seeding's not very good. We'll talk about that coming up a little bit later on as well. Great Northern Conference. Medford did it. 12 wins and no losses. They ran the table in a very, very tough conference. Northern Pines 9-2 in the conference. Mosinee 7-4. Rhinelander 5-6. Lakeland 4-7. Antigo 2-9. Tomahawk 0-11. The game of the week in the GNC was Friday, with Medford going to Mosinee, and Medford won by 16. I was a little surprised by the score, 69-53. Tanner Raby had 25 points. Logan Baumgartner had 15. Charlie Kleist 14 for the Raiders. Davin Stoffel 14. Keegan Jershely and Landon Tomer 12 for Mosinee. Also Friday, Northern Pines, I was impressed with this score because Lakeland has played tough basketball at times, but Pines just roughed up the T-Birds 73-42. In fact, that came a night after Lakeland put up 83 and won against Wausau East. But boy, Lakeland did not have any answers for Pines. Griffin Stempke 23, Gabe Smith 18, Will Fortier 12 for Pines. Rhinelander, their offense is struggling. I mentioned the fact they scored 6 on Monday in the first half against Everest. 32 points against Antigo, but fortunately, Red Robins only had 31. So Rhinelander 32, Antigo 31, Mason Gray 13 for the Robins in that game. And then Monday, huge win for Mosinee. Mosinee went on the road and knocked off previously undefeated Brillion, 54-53. Brillion led by 8 at halftime, 33-25. They only scored 20 points in the second half. Mosinee came back to earn the W. Davin Stoffel, 18. Keegan Jershely, 16 for Mosinee. Northern Pines, another good win. 41 points for Griffin Stempke as they beat Ladysmith, 89-73. And last night, Lakeland beat Ashland, 68-35. But I guess to start off, you got to say, what a job by Medford to go through that conference undefeated this year.
It is, and we've kind of talked about that. There's a couple key games along the way where they played, it was Pines and Mosinee and them at the top, and Medford, every time somebody came at them, was able to get the job done, and that consistency is what got them the conference title. They're well coached over there. They play defense. They got athleticism on the offensive end, and just a tough team. And I felt the same way you did when you said it was 16 points versus Mosinee in terms of the way that game was
in Mosinee.
Yeah, just surprised by that. So to Medford, congratulations on that conference title and a 19-4 mark, and really playing well and looking to see what they do in the postseasons. For Pines, this is one of those teams we keep talking about. This is their year. They're senior laden with those players that they have that have logged a lot of hours on the court, and a significant win against Lakeland. Turn around, put up almost 90 points on Ladysmith, and doing really well, and a solid team there. And I think Mosinee too. Their conference record has slid to 7-4, but they're still a team that's solid. They got a lot of key components. They've got a big guy to put the ball in the basket. They got good guard play, good role players. So, and it showed up in the Brilliant game that they're going to come compete against anybody that they can get against and play well. And it'll be interesting to see where they end up. I didn't know how to describe when I saw 32-31. I had to look at that score with Rhinelander and Antigo. It's one of those sides you look at and say, hey, we held the team to 31, but guess what? We only put up 32. And in a games where the high school basketball seems to tend to be more offensive minded, where we got a lot of teams putting up a lot of points in the games that they play. That one went back a little bit. But again, win's a win sometimes, and you just get them whether they're ugly or not. And Rhinelander beat won by that 1 point. And turned around and had a tough one against DC Everest. Lakeland, again, finished 13-10 overall, and I think they have the capabilities. They've just been a little bit all over the place. Sometimes they play real well. Sometimes they seem to play down a little bit. So, you know what consistency they're going to bring to the playoffs is yet to be seen.
Merriwood Conference South. Marathon 14-1 in the conference. Newman Catholic 13-2. Auburndale 12-3. Those three teams have been head and shoulders above the rest of this season. Stratford 8-7 in the conference. Assumption is 6-9, as is Edgar. Another really good conference campaign in the Merriwood South. The big game was last Friday. Had it right here on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, as Marathon defeated Newman Catholic 83-76. It was a seesaw game. Cardinals started quickly. Marathon took the lead. Cardinals came back in the second half to take the lead. Marathon came back again. Grant Warren, 24 points. Cooper Huxama, he was the player of the game, in my opinion. 21 points, 7 above his previous season high. Drew Love, also very good for Marathon, 14 points. Mason Prey had himself a night. Career high 42 points for Prey. Isaac Seidel had 17 for the Cardinals. Just a massive game, great atmosphere, packed house at Marathon, and that gives Marathon an opportunity with a win tomorrow night to clinch outright the conference championship. Also last Friday, it was Auburndale. Impressive win against Assumption by 28 points, 81-53. Lucas Yeski, 16. Alex Wilfart and Evan Scholl, 14. Ryan Shaw, 18 for the Royals. And Edgar, boy, they're a team that's been struggling, having some really big losses by big margins. They went to Stratford and knocked off their rival 55-52. Teagan Street, 21 for Edgar. Brady Schmidt, 17 for the Tigers. Then Saturday, Newman, right after that tough loss in a very warm gym in Marathon, made the trek down to Stoughton and beat the then number 10 ranked team in the state in Division II, Stoughton, 58-55 in overtime. Mason Prey, 22 points, including a 3-point field goal in the final seconds of OT to win it. Isaac Seidel, 15. Connor Kroc, 12 as well for Newman. Then on Monday night, Marathon in a non-conference road game went to Stanley Boyd, knocked off Stanley Boyd 78-51. Grant Warren, another night at the office, 18 points, 18 rebounds. Tyler Underwood, 17. Cooper Huxama, again, very big in the backcourt for Marathon, 16 points as well. Auburndale knocked off Amherst 69-54. Balanced attack for Auburndale. 5 players between 10 and 15 points. In a high-scoring game, Stratford fell to Colby, 86-80. Ashton Wrench had 25 for Stratford. Tevin Rue for Colby. I saw these numbers, wanted to pass those along. He had 27 points, but 10 of 12 from the field, 7 of 9 from three-point range. Hot shooting night for Rue. Really was the difference to give Colby the win over Stratford. Edgar, another win on Monday, beating Owen Withy 51-41. Brett Baumgartner had 21 points for Edgar. Then last night, Yeski with 14 to give Auburndale a 63-30 win over Loyal. But again, it was the game of the season in the Merriwood South was that Marathon win over Newman. But I think for the week, you can say both Marathon and Newman did some pretty good things.
Yeah, and starting with, well, let's just start with the top 3 team. I mean, Marathon's already at 20. Auburndale's at 20 wins. Newman's got 19, and they'll get some right out of the playoff, or they could get it against Stratford yet with the game they have left. And you got 3 teams at the top of the team with 20-plus wins. That's kind of an impressive statistic in my mind. For the Marathon Newman game, everybody at that point knew it was coming down to that game, unless there's a spoiler out there in Assumption or Stratford, which there shouldn't be. But Marathon, it just kept trading blows. It was 12-4, 12-2 at one point, and Marathon didn't call timeout. They just kept coming, and they went at them. And to their credit, they traded blows with the leads, and Marathon came out with a nice W. Both teams played well, and I thought, if you want to take the essence of a packed gym with something on the line, kids playing as hard as they possibly can, I thought that if you were there that night, you got treated to something special, because that's what high school sports is all about. So for Marathon and Newman, a nice week. And I think it's a big deal for Newman to bounce back in that Stoughton game. That's not an easy opponent after all the mental fatigue you go through, as well as the physical fatigue in a game. You're not happy from the night before. You probably don't want to watch a lot of film. You don't want to get back in. You just want to go and play that game and get back on the winning track. And they did that. And in a difficult fashion again, they need to go to OT, and Prey hit a big shot. And that was the difference in that basketball game. Auburndale, I think, is getting some stuff rolling. Significant win over Assumption, who's been playing much more competitive. Beat Amherst Loyal right away in a row, and I think that they're getting some things rolling and getting point production out of some of the seniors that they have on that basketball team. Edgar, I think, is finding some consistency. They beat a tight one in Stratford. Owen Withey, unless I'm incorrect, I think is the top of that conference, or has been for a chunk of the year for the Clover Belt. They're the top of that conference and leading that. So another nice win over there. So again, some things to see play out with these teams as they jump into their playoff races. But tough war at the top, which has been a lot of fun to watch. And I think three teams having over 20 plus wins when all said and done is a pretty tough conference.
We got to take a break real quickly, but I want to go through these last few conferences real quickly before we get to Coach Jon Krull of Stevens Point. Marywood North, I think Athens, again, is the team. They're lapping the field. Six-game lead in the conference. They beat Phillips Friday, 75-52. Aiden Yankee, 24 points, 16 rebounds. And then last night beat Spencer, 57-47. Connor Sheehan, 29 points. CWC North, Northern Lutheran, split a pair of games, beating White Lake 69-64. Andrew Weichman had 20. Karsten Zart, 15 points, 18 boards last night. Northern fell to Pittsville 64-42. Zart, 18 and 14. Again, another double-double. Wisconsin Valley Lutheran played a couple of tight games. Friday, they edged Boulder 41-39. Andrew Bolin had 23 points. And then last night fell to Elko 49-43. Touched on Whitburn with their game against West, but they had a good win out last Friday against the second-place team in the CWC East, beating Wyowega Fremont 79-72, Mason Meverton 17, Jet Rogowski 16. Any thoughts on those three leagues?
I think Athens is the biggest one. I mean, just the job they've been able to do to finish at a 19-5 mark, 13-3 overall, and looking to take it a step further from where they finished in the playoffs. So they've had a balanced attack all year. They've one ugly, one pretty, one significantly, one close game. So I think they're looking to roll, and they've held that Marywood North really well.
We're going to take a break. We'll have a look at the brackets on the boys' side coming up in just a little bit. But first, we have to take a break and then come back with Jon Krull, the head boys basketball coach of Stevens Point. He's coming up next. It's the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Online at bullfallsradio.com. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO. And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. Again, jam-packed show tonight. Coming up later on, we'll have at 7 o'clock our student-athlete guest, Central Wisconsin Storm and Wausau West soccer senior Mackenzie Bautc. And then at 7:20, we'll be joined by Sports boys basketball writer and from the Wisconsin Basketball Yearbook, Mark Miller. That's at 7:20. But right now, it's time for our coach guest for this week. And we're very happy to welcome from the Stevens Point area senior high school boys basketball team, head coach Jon Krull. And Coach, first of all, thank you for spending a few minutes with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys.
Absolutely, and it's a good week to have you on because you had a really good week, and I imagine that every coach wants at this time of year to be playing some pretty good basketball, and for your team to earn a hard-fought win against Wisconsin Rapids Friday, bounce back with a one-point win against always tough Eau Claire Memorial on Saturday, and then back into the conference with a win against Wausau East last night. Really good week for your team, wasn't it?
Yeah, we've been putting pretty good games together, and down the stretch here, like you said, this is the time of year we want to be playing our best and in good rhythm. And for this last week, we were able to do that.
And Coach, what do you like right now? You've had all this time to evaluate your team. You're with them in the summer. Some of these guys have been returning players with different hours that they've logged on the court with you going into the playoffs. I mean, it's got to be a good feeling, playing those tight ones. I think it builds a little bit of momentum going in there because you get battle tested and you know how to adjust to that adversity. But right now, from what you're seeing out of your team, what's some things that you're like, I really like this about our guys, and maybe some things that you're seeing like, hey guys, we got to do this a little more consistently to continue our season.
Yeah. So, we've definitely been battle tested this year. Our conference, and then our non-conference schedule. We've loaded up on a lot of teams, and it's good to have these type of games towards the end of the year. We've kind of had them throughout the year, but we've had to build on some experience early, and now having a full season and getting towards the end. Having these games late really shows what you're good at and really exposes of what you definitely need to get ready for in a short period of time to get ready for that playoff run. And right now, I've liked how we've grown as a team this year on both ends. We've had a lot of new starters, kind of new faces and new places, I guess, this year, and they've grown and we've learned to really concentrate on that defensive end. And when we're consistent on that end, it's tougher for teams to score, and it kind of gets our offense jump started if we can get some easy ones in, out of some turnovers or defensive stances and stuff like that. So, when we're consistent on the defensive end, it kind of gets us going.
And Coach, I saw you play a little bit against, or I saw the game last night against East, and I'm tempted to think I saw somewhere, I can't remember the game you played, but I saw your team earlier in the season too. Is that pretty much what, the style that you guys like to play, where you're transitioning your defense into offense and things are rolling, where whether a guy's hitting a good open 3-point look or there's that extra pass, hitting the guy on the fast break? I'm assuming that's kind of the style that you guys like to bring to the table each and every night?
Yeah, I would say, we can adapt to a few different styles. At certain games, we need to play a little bit faster than others. We've learned to play patiently on the offensive end, but we hit it right in the head. When we start sharing the ball and making that extra pass and having good spacing, it spreads out the defense. We're tougher to guard, and it gives us an opportunity to attack in a few different areas with some different guys, and when we can get that rhythm and making those extra passes, we can put up some points at times when need to, but it really gets our rhythm and then when we have rhythm on the offensive end, it kind of carries over the defensive end as well.
Again, we're talking to Stevens Point area senior high school boys basketball coach Jon Krull here on the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. SPASH 14-10 overall, second place right now in the Wisconsin Valley Conference at 9-3. Coach, let's talk a little bit about the guys on your squad. Let's start off with a sophomore that really seems like he's hitting a pretty good stride recently. Been solid all year, but boy, Grant Shadenob, really good week as well in these three games. 21 against Rapids, and then 34 points in that 1-point win against Memorial on Saturday, and came back with 17 last night. It does look like you've pretty much this season had a pretty good balance, but it looks like Grant has really kind of stepped into a role where he's producing big time in terms of points.
For sure. He's had a great year for us. He's really grown into kind of his role on this team, and he's got the ability to score on the inside, and stretch the D and shoot from the outside. But he really creates a lot for a lot of other guys. Maybe not so much, off the dribble and kicking with that assist, but really the defense is focused on him quite a bit, and we're able to space off of him and find openings for other guys using him within our offense. But when he gets it going, he can put up some points like that Eau Claire Memorial. At times, it's kind of get him to a spot and kind of get out of the way and let him go. But he creates a lot for us.
What else in terms of your players? Because as we've gone through the season and following the Valley and watching what your team's results have been, there have been a number of different players that have been able to be pretty good producers for your squad. Who else has been stepping up for your team, both in terms of your offense and your defense?
Sure. And to be honest, it's kind of been everybody. We've had a season full of, like a lot of teams, injuries or sickness and stuff like that. We lost Grant to sickness against our home game against Marshfield. And then, it's kind of the old saying, next man up, and it's kind of been like that. So when somebody's had an opportunity this year, Ariel's had some great games. Jack played well last night at East and throughout the year. Collectively on the defensive end, we came up a little short, but the game at DC Everest, Bennett Klisch stepped up big for us on the offensive end, which is he's kind of been our defensive guy. A lot of the little things that he does, and then starting off the year and in a bunch of games, another sophomore, Jaron Cease, can really stretch a defense. So it's been a collective effort. We've had to be balanced scoring throughout the year, which we have. When they put kind of an emphasis to stop one person, the next guy's kind of been ready to step up and fill those shoes and step up in that night.
And Coach, I just looking at your overall record 14-10. You guys, like you said, you challenge yourselves non-conference. Injuries and sickness is coming there, so you can sometimes move around in the win and loss column. You battled hard in the Valley and to a nice 9-3 record. I guess my question is where you think you stand in I look at it from what I've watched and followed on you guys and think that I don't know if the computer system did you a fairness and justice on that 11th seed. I think you guys could be a little higher. How about your takes, I guess, just on the computer system in general, and if you guys are going to play with a chip on your shoulder because you should be higher, maybe in your opinion you think we're in a good spot. I guess looking to see where you think if the playoff seeding was fair, I guess.
Yeah, I mean we don't really try to concentrate on that. It is what it is. It's the system that we use right now. And, it gave us a number. And right now, we can think about that number, or we can look at the task at hand. When we get to tournament time, everybody is usually playing at their best, or hopefully that they are. And you're going to have to play good teams. So, whoever kind of is on the other side of that, the other bench, we're going to go in, we're going to prepare and compete and see if we can, scratch out a really good, maybe our best 36 minutes this year and lay it on the floor, and whatever happens, kind of happens. But, that's kind of our mindset here going forward. And, we'll take whatever they give us and go from there.
You have won 5 games in a row. I mean, it's really, as I said earlier, it's what you like to do when you're coming down the stretch. You mentioned the Marshfield game, and obviously Marshfield, that's their only loss in the conference this season. You played without Grant. What did that game mean for your team?
A lot. I mean, obviously, to be able to, senior night and a conference game against a team that hasn't lost in our conference, going into 2 years almost. More sense of belief. I've kind of seen that throughout the year, or they're starting to believe of their what they're capable of with this team and trusting each other. And the hand that we were dealt that night, not what we wanted or chose to want to do, but it's like we were just talking about before. It is what it is, and they attacked that night, and guys stepped up, and they have a sense of belief, and maybe there's a little bit of a chip on their shoulder throughout the year of maybe not as high expectations on the outside of what we thought we potentially could do, but whatever it is, they're running with it, and they're playing really well.
I find it interesting you talk about confidence, because often when we talk to coaches and we discuss the way the schedule's put together, and you said it, I mean, you started the season off with Bayport and then traveling to Neenah, then Appleton East, and those were 3 tough games to start, and they were 3 tough results to start. Sometimes is there difficult to find a balance in terms of non-conference scheduling where, yeah, you want to be challenged, but you also don't want to. You want to make sure that you don't have a team that loses some confidence when you have a bit of a rough start. But it looks like your team was able to learn from those games to help you later in the season. How do you look at the scheduling in terms of trying to put it together in the right way?
Yeah, it's kind of give and take on that a little bit. we were definitely a different team, a younger team this year. And we knew going in with, really Grant and Jack were kind of our only returning guys. Brock has been out through this whole season. He was a freshman that started for us. And so we knew we were going to have our hands full. We knew it was going to be a challenge. It was going to be a growing period. But, in that type of schedule early, you really learn of what you really need to work on. You're really exposed against really good teams. And now we had, kind of our foundation of what we needed to work on going forward. And we had a couple months to work on it. And you put the plan in place, put the hard work in, and hopefully you get to this point and you're playing well and continuing to build on it. And so far we have been. And hopefully we can continue with that.
And Coach, correct me on any of this if I'm wrong. They moved the East game from Thursday to Tuesday with weather, and I believe if I got my notes right, your next game's your playoff game next Friday or March 3rd on Friday.
Yep, that's correct.
So I guess my question then, with luckily that all being correct, is what's your attitude and your take with the guys? Because I know some coaches will be like, "Hey, you guys, it's been a long grind. We need to mentally refocus a little bit." Other coaches will be like, "We are playing really well. I like our consistency. We're going to keep going with this." But with that game being moved, it gives you a little bit different time commit or time level, I guess, on what between the last game and the playoff game. What's kind of your idea of how you're going to handle the guys from that stretch?
Yeah, you never want to have this big of a break, I would say, in between games, especially like you said, when we have a good rhythm and playing well. We're going to have to reassess of kind of what we need to do right now with this weather and no school. We got to find some gym time to be able to get back in there, and then put a plan in place of what we need to do. And we're not an overly deep team, so we got to make sure we're aware of what we're practice time and length and stuff like that, but make sure we're getting ourselves prepared.
And I guess finally, it is Nina. You saw them a long time ago, back in November, late November. Went over there, and it looked like a really tough first half and a much tighter second half. But what do you take away from that first game? What don't you take away from that first game? And in terms of what you expect against Nina in your first playoff game a week from Friday?
Yeah, I think what we take away is we're a different team. Game 2 and now game 25, we're a different team, and we played a lot of good teams. We've been competitive and beat some good teams. We know what we're getting into over there. They're the defending champs for a reason. Well coached. It's a great atmosphere over there. They're going to be ready. We got to make sure we're ready. And lay it out there for 36 minutes and see what happens.
And real quickly, I've done games there, and it's a different kind of place. I imagine it's good that you had a chance to play in that gym, because it's a little different of a feel than a lot of places you play at.
For sure. That having a little bit more comfort in the arena and the atmosphere and being over there a few months ago is definitely going to help us. It isn't going to be the whole thing, so we know they've been playing well as of late as well. And when it comes tourney time, that team always ratchets up another few notches, and we're going to have to match that.
Jeff, any final questions for the coach?
No, I'm good. Coach, I wanted to say congratulations on a great season so far, and wish you best of luck as that second stretch starts off in the playoffs, and that you and your team stay healthy and injury-free and make it through the snow here the next couple days.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys.
Head coach Jon Krull of the Stevens Point Panthers. Again, 14-10, second in the conference behind only Marshfield, 9-3 in the Valley. Thanks again, Coach, and as Jeff said, best of luck as you continue.
Thank you.
We're going to take a quick break and then come back and look at those brackets. What did we think of what the computer did in the boys' side? So we're going to talk about that coming up. And then, of course, at 7 o'clock, Mackenzie Bautc from the Storm. And then at 7:20, we'll talk more boys high school basketball with Mark Miller from WisSports.net and the Wisconsin Basketball Yearbook. It is the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO. Thanks to Jon Krull, the Stevens Point head boys basketball coach, for joining us. Again, Mackenzie Bautc from the Storm, coming up at 7 and 7:20, Mark Miller. And Jeff, let's talk about some brackets on the boys' side. We'll talk about the girls' basketball. The playoffs are actually underway, but let's talk about the brackets. Before we break them down, generally, as you saw them, what were the first impressions you had?
Well, as you kind of dive in each year, it's especially more towards Division I. It's that Fox Valley area versus the Wisconsin Valley, and always seems like they're notched a little high.
And the big rivers.
Yeah,
it's really weird because it stretches from west to east,
and that's why they play each other a lot in non-conference games, as you see it. And some of the teams in the Wisconsin Valley play the same teams non-conference just to get that pecking order a little bit. I guess the thing that jumped out at me was the range of some of the seeds that they got. We've talked to SPASH. They got an 11. It's a tough spot to be in when you're high in your conference. You got some quality wins, and teams are seated well above you. I don't. Coach Krull answered it very well. I don't think it's fair.
One of the things that jumps out immediately is, let's start with Division I, Sectional 1. Stevens Point is the 11. The number 1 seed in the bracket is the team that they beat the day before the bracket was released. Their last. It makes you wonder, where would they have been if they had not won at Eau Claire Memorial the night before?
Right. Yeah. I
mean, it's crazy that they were still 11 and they beat the number 1 seed, Eau Claire Memorial.
And they're playing some of their best basketball. I think, we talked off air a little bit. Sometimes that computer seeding comes down to, what everybody else is playing, which you have no control over. So the divisional games that
it is funny, and real quickly. I mean, I said it's like the fact that Merrill could lose to Lakeland, and that affects Stevens Point's seeding.
Yeah, right.
I mean, you literally go down that line because that does affect it's really crazy. But Eau Claire Memorial, number 1 seed, number 17, Wisconsin Rapids. They have to. Memorial gets the first round bye. The 15, 16, 17, and 18. There are 18 schools in this bracket. That's a big bracket, number 1. But the 4 bottom seeds face off in the first round. It will be a regional quarterfinal next Tuesday, February the 28th. You got number 17, Wisconsin Rapids, number 16, Oshkosh West. Rapids has talent. I mean, they're a team that's shown they can play.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
I think they're a team that can play. Again, I mean, if Stevens Point can beat Eau Claire Memorial, Stevens Point then played the night before against Wisconsin Rapids, was a 3-point game. I mean, on the right night, it shows me that anybody in this bracket is capable of stepping up. I don't feel like there's a super team this year in this bracket.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. And the thing I was going to add is for Rapids, Jungwirth and Matthews kind of, they put the points in the basket for them, and their consistency of those two players kind of make it go. And I agree. There's not there's good teams, but there's not like that team man, nobody can beat that, especially after what SPASH did to Eau Claire Memorial. I think that's a big deal and a big factor in this showing teams, because that's what the playoffs become for different ways. There's teams that look to continue their consistency, to keep the ride going that they've already created on based on how well they played, and there's other teams that look to be the underdog and come up with no pressure, and that's where you get the upsets from. And I think that this bracket could have some of that. Not always easy though, playing in those difficult play-in games at the 16, 17, 15, 18.
Let me go through the whole bracket, because if we do it this way, we'll never get through all these brackets. We're 3 teams in, and we spent 4 minutes on it.
Go for it.
Also in the top of the bracket, with those teams we talked about, number 9 is Chippewa Falls. They traveled to number 8 Superior. Number 5 is Marshfield. Marshfield got a decent seed. I think they got rewarded for their non-conference schedule and winning the Wisconsin Valley Conference. They, a week from Friday, will host number 12 Appleton North. With a win, they would meet either number 13 seeded Holman or number 4 Hortonville. Hortonville would have the home court advantage in that regional final should it hold. The bottom of the bracket, number 3 seed is Oshkosh North. They'll host number 14 Appleton West. Stevens Point, the number 11 seed, is at number 6 Neenah in that regional semifinal. And then the bottom of the bracket, number 7 seed is DC Everest. It's interesting that Everest has a much better seed than Stevens Point, and they're pretty even in terms of the conference. But DC Everest did beat Stevens Point twice, so I think that may have something to do with it.
Yep.
But Everest gets a home game against Appleton East. And then the very bottom of the bracket, number 15 is Wausau West. They will host number 18 Eau Claire North in a regional quarterfinal next Tuesday in a game that I will have right here on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. And with a win, the Warriors would then advance on the following Friday, a week from Friday, to a number 2 seeded Hudson. Thoughts?
The biggest thought I have right now is with the weather. You know, a lot of these teams are still trying to squeeze in a Thursday game with that last conference game. You could be sitting, like SPASH. They got it in earlier with them in Wausau East, and now you're sitting down for a while if you're not playing till the following Friday. With a couple of teams that are playing those earlier games to get kind of jump into the bracket with the 15, 18, 16, 17. That gives you a little less time because you play obviously on Tuesday. I think no easy road. Marshfield doesn't have a bad path with getting that 5 seed. But again, the second game right out of the gates could be a very challenging one with a higher seeded Hortonville at number 4, who's showing that they can cause headaches just being in the middle of the pack of that conference over on the east side of the state there. Everest has a 7th seed and played a tough non-conference schedule. I think you hit it on the head when you said they beat SPASH twice. That head-to-head competition is still being thrown in the logarithm by the computer. And I think some of these teams, everybody's going to take one game at a time. So even if you take Wausau West, who's playing the 15-18 game, it's that one game. We're going to go get that one, then we'll roll into the next one. And I think that's how all these coaches are going to challenge themselves and try to get their team to get that first one, and then we go to the next one. Just like Coach Krull said, it might be it's Neenah, and it's a tough team, but we've been in that environment. We're going to go play the number 6 seed and do our best job.
Division 2, the teams that we follow are in sectional number 1. They have 2 different regional brackets, so it's not 1 through 18 like we saw in D1. You have actually 2 regionals that are seeded, basically about 1 through 12 or something like that. Top half of the bracket, Medford is a number 1 seed. They will take on the winner of number 9 seeded New Richmond against number 8 seeded Menominee. It's interesting, Medford on the western part of the area, they play with a bunch of western teams. You got number 5 Rice Lake at number 4 River Falls. Then number 3 is La Crosse Central, which is a team that beat Medford in the regular season. They will wait for either number 11 Hayward or number 6 Toma. Number 2 seed is Onalaska, who also beat number 1 seeded Medford in the regular season. They will wait for number 7 La Crosse Logan and number 10 Sparta. Then the bottom of the bracket, a number of our area teams are involved. The number 1 seed, Fox Valley Lutheran, a very good Division II basketball team. Rhinelander is number 8. They will host number 9 Ashland for the chance to go to Fox Valley Lutheran. Lakeland is the number 5 seed. They will be at number 4 seeded New London. Mosinee is the number 3 seed. They'll wait for the winner of number 11 Antigo and number 6 Merrill. And number 7 Wausau East will be hosting number 10 Wapaka. With a win, the Lumberjacks would travel to number 2 Shawano. So what are your thoughts on Division 2?
Well, first off, for Rhinelander playing Ashland, I guess just looking at the Division 2 part, Lakeland beat Ashland 68-35. So you'd think that Rhinelander would be able to hold themselves a little bit within that game. I think for Wausau East, having that opening round game at home, that's nice against the seeded number 10 Wapaka on Tuesday. That'll be a good environment to be in to be on your own home court for that first round of the playoffs. For Medford, in the other part of the bracket, I don't think it's going to be anything easy. I mean, you listed Onalaska and La Crosse Central, which are fairly solid teams, and have given other teams that we've seen play in our area fits. I said I don't think they have an easy road to go to. I'm not saying that, they earned that number 1 seed. They had a great season at 19-4 and winning the Great Northern, but not an easy bracket to go through. And I think
well, let me throw something out there that one of the interesting potential early round matchups is if Merrill beats Antigo in the first round, they would go to Mosinee in the same round that Merrill went to Mosinee last season and pulled off a big upset. I mean, that would be a very interesting return matchup in the same round a year later after Mosinee, who had a team I think was expecting to make a deep run and maybe even to state, got knocked off by a Merrill Blue Jay team.
And I would say with just looking at what we've seen on paper and what we've kind of observed throughout the year, that will happen. I mean, Merrill's going to beat Anago, I would think, and then they're going to have to go in and try to upset Rhinelander, a higher seed, which we have seen have been done in the past. Mosinee, I think, going to look to prove themselves. Just they've had some great regular seasons and done some and beat some really good basketball teams, but their challenge has always been when those playoffs roll around, which just goes to show you, though, everybody steps their game up, but it's not as much as you're saying Mosanee's got to hold their own. At the same time, it's hard to beat some of these teams that are coming at you because whether they have guys that don't want to give up the final part of their season, or somebody makes a mistake, or key injury or sickness, or a lot of factors get involved in the playoffs that make things up. But Mosinee playing good basketball too, so it'll be interesting to see when Merrill rolls around that matchup as well in the Division 2.
Division 3, Northern Pines is a number 3 seed in their bracket. Xavier, the number 1, and number 2 is Little Chute. Pines, a first-round bye. They'll wait for the winner of number 11, Wittenberg-Burnhamwood, and number 6, Wrightstown. Wrightstown has had a pretty good program over the years, so that's not going to be easy for Northern Pines. That's a pretty tough bracket.
In Wrightstown, I remember a couple of years ago when Pines was coming in as a lower seed and had to play Wrightstown, and they didn't come out with a win. It was a tough team that they played. I think, though, Pines is ready to make that. They've got this group that is just, logged a lot of hours, and now it's their senior year. And they've got weapons, they've got guard play, they've got bigs, they've got guys that, we saw them play early against Newman and over at West, and just a very talented team, and have had an outstanding season at 18-5 so far. So I think they're going to look to kind of move their way through that bracket and be one of the tougher teams in there, as much as they've had a great season so far.
Division 4, again, in sectional number 2, as we see every year, these Merrill-Wood Conference South teams battling each other. Marathon got a number 1 seed. They will wait till a week from Friday for the winner of the next Tuesday's game between Spencer and Westfield. Number 2 seed is Auburndale. And apparently, from what we were told during the release show, that Auburndale almost got the number 1, despite losing twice. If they would have played one more game, which they could have had the number 1. Auburndale will take on either Princeton, Green Lake, or Montello in their first game. Edgar is the number 6 seed. They will host Nakusa next Tuesday, with an opportunity, if they win, to go to Wyowega Fremont. And I think that would be a decent matchup for Edgar after Wyowega. They lost to Whitburn, who's a number 11 seed in D3. So, I mean, that could be actually a decent road for Edgar.
Right.
And Stratford is a number 4 seed. They'll take on 13th seeded Abbotsford. With a win, they would take on either number 5 Necedah or number 12 Iola Scandinavia. But those Merrill-Wood South teams all in that same bracket. What's your take?
My take is I'm happy I'm not coached. I'm not in that bracket anymore, because that was crazy when we used to actually be up to Division 4 with them. Never an easy road. They see each other a third time. That's always challenging to play each other when you get kind of the Merrill-Wood team siphoning through. But the routes you just listed, Marathon's going to win their first round. I would say Auburndale should easily win their first round. I don't think Stratford has a bad path. They're going to knock off 13 Abbotsford, and then you get to see some different teams at that round, as does Edgar. If they can beat Nakusa, they can still see another team that's not from around. I think that's what, every time I've had conversation with those coaches, that's what they're looking for. That's probably their biggest, I don't know if it's a gripe what it is, but it's just challenging to see the same team again, and that's what you want to do, is play somebody else. And I think that is one justification that's come out of this Division 4 bracket, is they're going to be able to do that at least till the regional final.
D5, Newman Catholic, a number 1 seed. They'll take on number 16 Tri-County next Tuesday. With a win, they would advance to take on either number 9 Assumption or number 8 Wild Rose. Other teams from our area in that same bracket, Wisconsin Valley Lutheran, number 13 seeded. They'll travel to Marshfield Columbus, the number 4 seed. Athens is a number 3 seed. They'll host number 14 Rosholt in the first round. Northland Lutheran got a number 7 seed. They get a home game against number 10 Marion. And Pacelli, the number 2 seed, against number 15 Gresham.
We'll start with the Northern Lutheran. Obviously they're very happy they got the 7. The team that they're going to play in the first round, Marion, I believe, is at the top of that conference. So again, that's going to come down to who beat who throughout the conference schedule, which I think Northern Lutheran beat them once at least. So that'll be interesting. I think Newman can kind of control their destination. They're again led by a talented group of seniors that can put up points on you very well. Have done well in the Merrill-Wood South, and deservingly rightfully so, of that number 1 seed. They're going to knock off Tri-County at the 16. And I think some of their challenges are going to come in the size that Pacelli has a good center. And Columbus Catholic's always lingering, and I know their record doesn't indicate. They've had some injuries, they've had some sicknesses, and I think they're supposed to be healthy around playoff time. And those can be some dangerous teams. And for any team, if you're looking to make that run, there's always a couple, sometimes people argue, but I think there's a little bit of luck involved, and there's always going to be that one major push game where you're going to be knocked down a couple times, and how you respond determines whether your season progresses or it's done. And I think everybody has that. Every team has that one game that they total dogfight.
And I think, again, that Newman-Columbus matchup in a potential regional final a week from Saturday would be one of the better and more interesting games in that bracket. So I think you're exactly right. We have to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and have our student-athlete guest for this week. We'll be joined by Mackenzie Bautc from the Central Wisconsin Storm and the Wausau West soccer team coming up. And then at 7:20, Mark Miller will talk some brackets and boys basketball as well at 7:20. So that's all coming up here on the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio 98.9 and 1230. And welcome back. It's the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio 98.9 and 1230. Online at bullfallsradio.com. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO. With Jeff Gress, I'm Chad Holmes, and we're very happy to welcome into studio our student-athlete guest for this week from Wausau West. Plays soccer, and we'll find out tennis as well. And also the Central Wisconsin Storm, Mackenzie Bautc. And Mackenzie, thank you again. As Jeff just said, it is not the night to be out, but we appreciate you coming on in and joining us here tonight.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
And if you can move a little closer to the microphone, that'd be terrific so everybody can hear you. But I guess we will start with the headlines because last night, obviously, boy, you talk about a tough bracket. I mean, you got 3 of the top 4 teams in the state in your sectional bracket for the Central Wisconsin Storm. And you faced Hayward, who was number 4. You were number 3. And game that came down to the last few minutes and ultimately fell by a score of 4-2. Obviously, you know the success of winning a state championship a year ago. What was the feeling last night? Obviously, it had to be a tough pill to swallow for everybody, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was definitely a tough loss. Like you said, it's a very competitive bracket. Really, like we had to be on our game all the time, but like that's what makes it fun. Like the winning's not as satisfying when it's against like easier teams. So it really made it fun. And like we're a very young team, so like we put everything we had out there. And yeah, it was a tough loss, but I'm excited to see what everybody does with the following years.
What was the difference last night, in your opinion?
I think it was just it came down to the little things. Like everybody wanted it so bad, but it was just little plays that didn't work out for us. Not enough shots, or just things weren't going our way in certain aspects. But
it's actually funny because after the game, I got done and I packed up, and at the same time, the guy that was doing the game for Hayward came out, and the thing what he said was puck luck. The third goal was a little bit of puck luck, where it was, sometimes it's you can look at a game and look at it so many different angles, and sometimes somebody gets a little bit luckier. And when you have 2 really good teams, it sometimes can be as simple as that, can't it?
Yeah. Like just certain opportunities.
Well, and just, sometimes you look back and you reflect on the season, maybe a lot last night, maybe the days to come, maybe just when you're around your teammates again at school. For you, what were some of the special moments as looking back on the regular season? Because obviously you guys had a very successful season, and it doesn't hinge on one game, even though it's always the last game that is the most vivid one that you want to move on from. So what were some of the highlights that you enjoyed this season?
Honestly, all of the bus trips were always they're very noisy, but very fun. Like it's genuinely a family on that team. I've been on a lot of teams, but nothing's felt like family quite as much as like the Storm program. So just all the memories we've made, all the overnight trips, just random, like, fun things made out of nothing, ordering pizza late at night, just always little things like that really just made the season. Like, it wasn't the wins I'll remember, it's just the memories on the bus trips, the hotels, like, before the games, so, yeah.
You mentioned you've been on a lot of teams, and that this is a special team. It's a different team because it's a co-op team. It's got Wausau West and Wausau East and DC Everest and Mosinee, and even a girl from Wittenberg-Burnham this year. What makes it different? What makes it, because I know there's challenges as well when you have a co-op team, but what are the biggest positives of being with a group of girls from a bunch of different schools?
Definitely, like, I don't know, you're more excited to see them almost because, like, it's not like you're seeing them every day during the school day. Like, you have different stories to bring with, like, different classes, different teachers to talk about. So, and it's just, I don't know, you get different branching out points. Like, you get to go to their sporting events, too, make some more friends. But, I don't know, it's just different school cultures brought together and just makes it very fun, like, different perspectives and everything. So,
as you have your hockey journey from playing, I'm assuming you played youth hockey and played all the way through up to high school now. With the co-op team, do you get to play with a lot of these girls along the way, or are they opponents that you're seeing, or how does that work out once you go through the youth hockey journey into the high school journey with where you see a lot of your teammates?
Yeah, so I actually started in 5th grade. I started playing with the boys team until about the U14s, and then there wasn't a Storm like co-op for U14 at all, so we were called the Central Wisconsin Stars, and we play with a lot of girls from the Union team now. So a lot of Stevens Point girls. We practice at Marshfield and Stevens Point most nights. Sometimes we practice at Green Heck, but so now like it's playing against opponents. A couple of the girls on the team are now Storm players with me, but yeah, it's weird seeing them on the ice like all these years later. Like it's like, oh, I played with you, like I remember this, but. Yeah, so now it's cool to see that there's a Storm co-op for like the younger girls and everything, because that wasn't around when I was there. So,
again, we're talking to Mackenzie Bautc from the Central Wisconsin Storm and Wausau West girls soccer and tennis here on the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Let's talk about winning a state championship, because, a lot of kids play high school athletics, but not many get a chance to reach the top of the mountain. And you were part of a state championship team a year ago with that group. What is it like with all the work? Because especially for the winter sports, it's a long season. I mean, it really is. It's a long grind. There's ups and downs to be able to peak at the right time. And, sometimes, and I think even for your squad this year, maybe we've peaked just a couple of weeks too early. So, because, it's hard in a winter sport when you have a long season. But what was it like to be there last year and not only win the state championship, but win it in a dominating fashion in the championship game? What was that experience like for you?
It was definitely very surreal. I remember like watching one of my brothers win the state championship when he was in high school, and I just remember like sitting up there just watching in the crowd, just in awe of like seeing that, and like just I never thought like I'd experience it, because at that time I was in hockey, and so just winning it was so surreal, and just it's a moment I'll never forget. Like when that buzzer finally went off and we realized like we're state champions, like there's like that moment of just pause and awe, and then all of a sudden everybody just kind of freaked out and got super excited, but it was just surreal.
And we talked off here a little bit about some of your brothers and sisters, and you mentioned sometimes I play tennis so I can be competitive with them.
Yeah.
What is that like? I'm assuming you're the youngest, being the youngest, and then having all these older brothers and sisters that play similar sports. I imagine dinner table and backyard matches can be quite interesting. What's that like on your end? What takes from that?
Yeah, it's always been very competitive. Definitely puts I put high standards on myself for teams. I think that's what really pushed me to be like the best athlete I can be. So, like, obviously, a lot of competitions growing up, or we have Scrabble board, like band in our family, like little games like that are super simple. Most families get banned, so we're just a very, very competitive family. So I think that really helped push me to be like an athlete and like do the best I can be. So.
And did it help, like you said, help watching older brothers and sisters play some of the similar sports too?
It definitely did, because like I would be able to come home and be like, hey, like I don't understand this play, like can you help explain this? So they were like super patient, would walk me through things. So I was very fortunate in that aspect of having that extra help.
Let's talk soccer, because you were second team all-conference a year ago. You got another opportunity to hit the pitch coming up when the snow goes away with Wausau West. And also you're going to continue to play soccer at the next level in college as well. Talk about soccer. First of all, what position do you play in soccer?
I'm mainly a defenseman. I currently play like center defensive mid. So I've been a defenseman my whole life, basically.
What's the mindset on the pitch compared to the ice? Because it's the different positions. I mean, in terms of the mindset, what's the mindset when you're on the pitch playing the defense positions compared to what you do on the ice?
There's a lot more crossover than like I initially thought there would be. It helps to have like an offensive mindset from hockey. Just like it helps me think more offensively of how like my players will like want the ball, and like it's very different, like very different numbers on the field, obviously, but it's a very different mindset too, because obviously as a forward in hockey, like you're trying to get open, trying to like get the puck to like continue on, and defense, you're the last defense, so it's just very different that aspect. But like being offense, it's more attacking, and defense, it's more you're just holding them back and everything, and you want to like create the plays, so you're creating more of the plays and setting it up more.
Which sport did you start first?
I started soccer first. I've been playing since I could walk, because all my siblings played soccer, so I grew up a lot around that.
Would it be fair to say that you enjoy one more than the other, or is there an equal? How would you answer that question? What, in terms of your love of a sport?
I don't know. Like I said, I'm very fortunate. Like I love all of them. Like there's no sport that I really favor over the other. Like I've made lifetime bonds in all of them. So, and I've learned a lot from all of them. And every season I'm in, I'm always enjoying it. So.
Do you find it's hard to switch gears from one to the other? Are you ready to usually go on to the next one, or do they naturally, you feel, lead themselves into each other? Because there's a lot of different stuff you could practice and to excel at an individual sport, and you play multiple sports, so it's a lot of time and effort.
Yeah, there's definitely been a few times like first like soccer practice or like first open gym for soccer, like I'll go for the ball with like a stick. I'm like, oh, I don't have a stick in my hand actually. But in hockey a lot, my coach always makes fun of me, like I lose my stick, so I'll just like use my feet. I'm like, oh, I can do this. Like I can play soccer, I can do this. So
do you feel shorter when you're not on skates?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I feel short anyways on the ice, but definitely it's weird.
Again, we're talking to Mackenzie Bautc of Wausau West High School and the Central Wisconsin Storm here on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Something else you mentioned is you're a captain in all your sports. And I doubt that's an accident, because you must have leadership qualities. How do you look at your role as a captain for each of your teams? What are the things that you try to bring that may be a little extra being a captain as opposed to just being a member of the team?
Like I said, I've been on a lot of teams, so I've seen a lot of like leadership throughout the years, and I remember a lot of good leaders. Like my freshman year, all the captains were very good leaders and very influential on us, so I just remember I wanted to be just as impactful and like take all those good aspects and what I enjoyed from them and put that into like my other teams. So I don't know, it's being like there for the underclassmen and like just building those relationships initially, like right off the bat, really helps. And I don't know, because sometimes as a underclassman you feel a little bit like isolated, so just trying to like make that openness and like more family environment is really important as a captain, I feel like.
With the different roles you have, the different positions, and all the time you've logged in high school sports, what makes those high school sports a big deal to you? So maybe some things you might miss when you don't get to have that high school career anymore because you graduate. What's been some of the what are some of the special parts about getting to be a good high school athlete?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said before, just getting all those bonds. Like each sport I play is very like different crossovers of people, and just getting to know them in school. It's friends you wouldn't be able to make otherwise. Like with hockey, the co-ops, I probably wouldn't cross paths with any of these girls otherwise. Like it gave me some of my closest friends, so that's definitely something I'll take forever. And just the leadership I've gained from the coaches and everything.
Let's get off the field for a moment. What's your favorite class in school?
I really like studio art. That's definitely one of my favorite classes.
How do you go about balancing your time? Because you obviously are very busy with your sports, and then, of course, you do have your school responsibilities, and then, of course, you got to have time to be with your friends and just get away from it all. Have you learned any special lessons in terms of balancing time, being so busy during your high school athletic career?
Yeah, I usually, like, it's definitely hard starting a new season, like getting that new routine and everything, but during like the winter season, typically on Sundays is an off day for us, so that's when I spend like more social time or like homework time. Otherwise, after practices, I just have to like sit down and like really discipline right away getting my homework done, because otherwise I know it's not going to get done, and just utilize like my off time during classes. So
I was just going to say, you mentioned art. Are you when you have you have college picked out and everything, is that part of your idea? I'm going to pursue a major there, or undecided, or do you give that any thought yet of what might interest you as what your higher education might pertain to?
Yeah, I think art's just like a hobby I really enjoy. I don't know if I'll make a career out of it. Right now I'm leaning towards more like marketing and business, but that definitely could change. I mean, majors are pretty easy to change as college goes, so we'll see.
Where are you going to school?
UW Stout.
Why Stout?
Two of my sisters went there, and they really enjoyed it. It's also Polytechnic College. I love that it's hands-on. That's how I learn. It's also closer to two of my siblings, which is just an added benefit. And I really like that it's a smaller campus, easy to get around. There's just multiple aspects of it that I really like.
Let's look ahead to the spring. We start your new sport. What are the expectations for you and your team this spring?
We have a very young team, a lot of freshmen coming up, a lot of talent, so it should be a good season, competitive season. Obviously, it's going to be different now that I'm a senior and going on to college next, but I'm just looking forward to making the best out of my last season.
And a question about coaches. You obviously get a chance to work with a lot of different coaches in different sports. Do you see different or similar qualities within your coaches with different sports?
Yeah, for sure. One of the similarities it would for sure be like just the passion they all show and like the care they show for the players. Like the best teams I've been on is when the coaches genuinely like try to relate and care about their players and like just individualize each player instead of just thinking about them as a whole and like just bring the team together like as like that family unit or like just making them like work on each skill individually instead of just blanket covering a couple of skills for the whole team. And there's definitely like some differences, like different coaching experiences. I have a younger coach for soccer, and like obviously Coach Bauer's been coaching a really long time for hockey, but it doesn't make like I don't know, the different coaching experiences have just been different, but all very good.
Who's your favorite teammate?
That's a hard one.
A few of your favorite teammates then.
There's these three freshmen that we call the Three Amigos. In the locker room in between periods, they're always singing, just getting the energy back up. If we're down or losing or like hanging our heads, they help just get the energy up, and that's great because we really need that.
And give us their names for the folks listening, because I think I know who you're talking about. But who are you talking about?
Mara, Maddie, and Anna.
Jeff?
Yeah, I was going to ask, with the different sports that you play, do you have a role model or a professional athlete that you kind of look up to, that whether you want to model your play after or just somebody that, you know, inspires you or gives you some extra motivation to do the best that you can do to be like them?
Honestly, no professional athletes, just my siblings, honestly. It's as cheesy as it is. I've always looked up to them.
That's a good save answer.
Yeah, I've always looked up to them for that. And watching them play college sports or just high school sports, they just always been my role model for that.
And I guess it's time for our final question. I think we kind of hit on it, but we're still going to ask it anyways, because in the course of our discussion, I think when we discussed being a captain, I kind of discussed it, but we're still going to finish because we got to do it because it's the way it is. Tradition.
So we always ask every athlete that comes on if they could look back on their high school career, and if you had a mentoring senior or somebody you looked up to in that program, what advice do you give to some of those younger athletes that you think this will allow you to make the most of your high school career? This will get you something out of it. It will be rewarding and fulfilling if you do this. What piece of advice would you give them to say, you better focus on this for 4 years?
Yeah, I would just say, like, getting lost in your own frustrations is going to only hold you back. Like, take what you have and move forward with it and make the best out of it and just enjoy every moment of it. And if you're struggling with a skill, instead of getting frustrated, just, like, look at other ways to, like, get better at it, ask for help from other people, get different perspectives, but just enjoy every moment of it and just don't take it for granted, because this came way faster than I thought it ever would.
Mackenzie Bautc, thank you for coming in. Congrats on all the success you've had. Best of luck as you finish off your high school career, and best of luck when you get to Stouts.
Thank you so much.
Again, Mackenzie Bautc joining us here as our student-athlete guest on the Big High School Sports Show. We're going to take a break and then come back with Mark Miller from WisSports.net and the Wisconsin Basketball Yearbook. That's coming up next here on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Online at bullfallsradio.com. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO. Thanks again to Mackenzie Bautc from the Central Wisconsin Storm and Wausau West Girls Soccer for being our student-athlete guest for this week. And right now we're going to talk more about high school boys basketball. Yep, the brackets were announced this past weekend. Regular season coming to an end, and then the postseason playoffs begin next Tuesday. And we're very happy to welcome back to the program from WisSports.net and the Wisconsin Basketball Yearbook, Mark Miller. Mark, great to talk to you again.
Thanks for having me on, Chad. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Before we talk about all the brackets and all that stuff, because I know Jeff is already chomping at the bit to ask about that, I wanted to ask about your thoughts. Again, we would like to bring you in because you're able to give a perspective around the state of Wisconsin in terms of what's going on, in terms of maybe strengths and weaknesses of high school basketball. And as we do this show every week and cover a lot of the boys basketball teams here in central Wisconsin, again, it looks like this year, some really good squads, maybe in the smaller school divisions and the big school divisions right now in the middle of a very powerful Fox Valley, and then some good teams in the big rivers as well. Is that the way you look at it in terms of central Wisconsin basketball, more of the strength in the small schools?
Yeah, I think that's probably accurate. I think you look at Marathon and Division 4, I think they're a little under ranked right now. I think they're 10th. And I think they're a really good team, and can compete with most of the Division 4 teams throughout the state, if not all of them. And then, of course, Newman Catholic in D5. I know you covered them a lot, Chad. They had a heck of a week last week. I mean, they lost 2 or 3, but in the process, they may have gotten better because they played, big schools, coming to Stoughton and getting an overtime win, and then losing at Marathon, and playing a really good Columbus team on the road. That's a pretty good prep for the postseason. As far as the bigger schools go, certainly you got one of the better players in the state up there with Marcus Hall at DC Everest, and I think the job that Chris Fisher has done. Again, at Marshfield is really commendable to win the conference, and to have a team that maybe doesn't have an all-state kind of player, but certainly a team that plays well together and has some really good pieces with Hinson and Lemoyne. It's just a matter of hey, can they match up with the toughness and the size that they're going to see in the playoffs, from the Fox Valley teams. That's always the question for the Big Rivers and the Wisconsin Valley Conference, and that doesn't change this year, right?
Mark, out of the teams, well, let's just take the top 3 in the Valley with Marshfield, SPASH, and DC Everest. Do you look that one of those has a better pathway, or one of those you think will make it a little farther through that tougher competition that they're going to see in that Division 1 bracket?
To be honest with you, Jeff, probably not. I guess when you have a guy like Hall, you always got a shot. And I know they have other good players on that team. Preby's a nice player. But, they open up at home against Appleton East, which has a kid that had 35 points last night, Caleb Glazer. He's going to Division II Hillsdale, which is a top 10 Division II program right now in the country. They have a junior guard, Joey LaChapel, whose sister is a freshman at Marquette on the women's team. And Joey's, if he's not first team, he's probably second team in the SEA. So, it's just tough. I don't really know how you bridge that gap, with the talent that you see up in the Fox Valley area as compared to, the Wausau, Point, Marshfield areas. I guess maybe you schedule them non-conference games and play them in the summer, and yet that, as you guys know so well, that involves travel, and some of the athletes in the central part of the state are playing summer baseball or have other commitments, so it just makes it more difficult. And when you're up in the Fox Cities, you have Kimberly and Kaukauna and the Appleton schools and Neenah and Menasha and the private schools up there, and then Oshkosh is right there, Ortonville. I mean, you can play, within your area, you can play really good competition all the time. So, just makes it more challenging for the central teams in the central part of the state.
I want to ask you about a couple of the players from 2 of the teams that we talked about, Marathon and Newman Catholic. Grant Warren, junior, who's just been consistently outstanding this season in terms of double-doubles and been fantastic in leading this marathon team to what looks like a Merowith South championship. And Mason Prey, who I know you've had a chance to see multiple times because of inviting Newman to your Wisconsin basketball yearbook tournament around the holidays. Are you able to compare those players to others that you've seen around the state of Wisconsin?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I saw Grant quite a bit in the summer, and Marathon's actually going to come to the shootout in December of this year, so we'll see Grant.
I thought they might. I thought you'd be right on top of that one, yep.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think Adam Jacobson, tremendous coach, runs a great program, just a terrific person in addition to having winning teams, and, what he does there is, credit to high school basketball in our state, and the Warren kid, he's really good. He's very skilled. He needs to get bigger and stronger, like a lot of guys that size, that age. But other than that, wow! I mean, he's got a really good skill package, and he's got tremendous length. He can score in different ways. He's really good. I know he's going to play some AAU this summer with the Playmakers team. I think. I'm pretty sure he's a baseball player. You guys would know that better than I would.
Yep.
So he's got the spring baseball season at Marathon.
Yep.
But I'm glad he's playing in the summer with the Playmakers because he's a kid that needs to be seen. Anytime you're 6'9", that people are gonna pay attention. So he'll get out there on the club circuit a little bit this summer. As far as Mason goes, he I just like the way that Newman team plays together. I think Mason and Isaac Seidel and Connor Kroc and Gustafson, they just kind of play their roles really, really well. Mason's probably the most diverse of all those guys, just in his ability to make perimeter shots, make really good passes, handle the ball against pressure, put some pressure on the opponent at the top of their zone. I just think that, with what happened over there this fall with a late coaching change, I really credit, obviously Jeff Waldville has done a tremendous job there, but I also credit the experience and the leadership of that senior class at Newman for sticking together and they may not win the conference, as you mentioned, Chad, because of the loss the other night to Marathon. They were a game behind with just one to go. But I think they can make some pretty big noise in a really loaded Division V sectional up in your part of the state. Mason, I'm not sure where he's going to end up in college, and obviously Warren's got another year yet, but whoever gets Mason, I know Point is on him, along with some other schools, is going to get a heck of a player.
Again, we're talking to Mark Miller from WisSports.net and the Wisconsin Basketball Yearbook here on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. And Jeff, I know you have another question.
Well, I was just going to ask you, Mark, what you alluded a little bit to that Division V bracket with Newman's in at the number 1 seed, and there's some other teams. I know Columbus is hanging in there, and Pacelli. Just kind of your thoughts or observations within that bracket from what you've witnessed and observed so far.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of the old WISA days when you had, the four teams there: Newman, Pacelli, Assumption, and Columbus. Assumption's probably the weakest, quote unquote, of the four. But
you better not say it too loudly, though, Mark, because then people start getting angry.
Well, and the thing is, they play as you guys know, in a great league. So they're going to be battle tested and are going to come out and really compete. That's one thing about that team. They have athletes and they compete. There may not all be basketball first guys, but that doesn't matter. They can still win some games. So, it's a really good sectional. Florence is number 1 seed on the lower half out of the Northern Lakes. And then, of course, Newman Catholic is number 1 with Pacelli number 2 in the upper half. I think you could be looking at a potential Pacelli Newman Catholic matchup. I do think Athens has got a pretty strong squad. They won the Merowith North. That's another team that's got a little size to them. So that's a team to keep an eye on as well. But Pacelli is this year, I think, kind of where Newman maybe was, last year or maybe the year before with the young talent they have in that program. But they have a difference maker in Jaden Howie at 6'7". And if some of their perimeter shooters get hot, that can make things really difficult. So it's not a shoo-in by any means for Newman to get to Madison. They're going to have to win some tough games, but that's the way it is. That's the way it should be in the postseason.
Hey, and Mark, I guess, Chad and I, we talk off air, we've talked with some of the coaches, and we always try to get people's feel for how they, from the old days when you had the seating meetings to the computer system, is it all serving I guess just your generalizations or general opinion of what you think of the computer system and where it stands, and are teams, getting their fair dues based on how it's all being plugged in there?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jeff, and it's something that's at the forefront right now because it just came out the other day. And I think by and large they do a really good job of separating the teams and giving them their seeds. There's always going to be questions, but I think there are we tweaked a few things. The committee from the WIA tweaked a few things from last year, but there's still some things that need addressing. And one of the big things is allowing the out-of-state games that you play get the actual records of the teams that you played rather than just plugging everyone in at 500. I think that's a disservice to the schools that want to challenge themselves and go play against some good competition from out of state, whether it's in Minnesota or Illinois or Iowa, or some of our teams make the trek over to Florida during the holiday break. I just think that needs to be fixed. And then the other thing that needs to be taken into consideration, I think, is the relative strengths of a particular conference. So if you're, let's say you're in second place and have a 15-5 record in the Valley, and you're in second place and have a 15-5 record in the Fox Valley Association, one of those leagues is better than the other. It's a little like if you're playing in the Big East or the Big Ten and you're in first or second place, that achievement is bigger than doing the same thing in the Summit League or the Horizon League. And it's no cut to the teams that are in those other conferences, but that's why when you take a look at that Appleton East at DC Everest game, for example, even though Everest has got the better seed, that's going to be a huge challenge for DC Everest. And even Marshall, which got the fourth or the fifth seed, I think, they're playing host to an Appleton North team that finished mid to lower half of the FBA. But and I'm not saying Marshall didn't deserve a home game; they certainly did. But is there something that can be done to take into account the strengths of the top leagues within each of the 5 divisions? The Merrillwood, for example, is a really good conference for small school basketball, and it's better than the vast majority of Division 4 and 5 leagues in the state, in particular the South Division. What can you do to give those teams some credit for that? And maybe it's a matter of hey, we're going to go over the last 5 to 10 years and see how each league has done, to get some criteria and something to work with. But none of that is easy. None of it comes, without other complications. For example, if you get the out-of-state teams' records, well, then somehow you have to also get the records of the out-of-state teams' opponents. And then, that tends to be pretty cumbersome to put all of that data into the computer. The other thing they could do is, have the computer spit out the seeds and then, come up with some criteria for an appeals process. Not allowing every coach to appeal, but if there are certain situations where you're like, boy, Madison Memorial's in second place in the Big 8 and they're a 10 seed, that just doesn't. There's something wrong with that. Oregon's in second place in the Badger Conference, and they're a 4 seed. Not that the Badger Conference isn't good, but it's not, normally as good as the Big 8. So, things like that maybe can be tweaked to make it even better.
One other conference I wanted to ask you about around here is the GNC. The top 3 teams in that league are all, I think, very, very good basketball teams. And Medford, a number 1 seed in Division II. They went through that conference 12-0, and I was really impressed that they could beat both Pines and Mosinee twice during the conference season. I think Pines is a veteran team that's ready to make a move, but they're a number 3 seed in D3. And then Mosinee, coming off a huge win on Monday night, maybe had a little trouble in the conference against those teams, but still a very dangerous team as well. Do you think any of those 3 teams have the capability of knocking on the door to Madison?
I like all 3 teams. I saw Mosinee early in the year at East in a Thanksgiving event, and saw them in the summer, and familiar with their personnel pretty well. Really like that Keegan Jersley. Boy, is that kid a gamer. And then Stoffel, of course, gives him great size and muscle in the paint. Saw Pines a lot in the summer. Haven't seen them, this season. You guys are just so far away.
We need transporters.
But you can watch streams, and I know their personnel, and they're very, like you said, very experienced. They have some size and length. They got some really good shooters. They got a really good point guard in Nolan Lurvy. So, and then of course Medford won the conference. But going back to that Medford situation,
we talked about it earlier too. I know where you're going here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is certainly no rip on Medford because the job that they've done, Coach Brown's done there is really, really impressive, and I always enjoy watching them play. Just play a fun style, and they're connected, and they share the ball, and they just play the right way. And as you guys recall, I think it was it last year that they gave Lacrosse Central all he wanted in the sectional, or
I think it was last year. Yep.
Yeah. So they can certainly play with Lacrosse Central and Onalaska. It's just a matter of for them, it was a break because now they won't have to play both. They only got to play one, and they'll get to host through the regional. So that was pretty significant. What did they deserve a number 1 seed over those other 2 teams? Well, that's something for debate. But it certainly didn't hurt their chances. And now, they'll get one of those 2 probably, Central or Onalaska, and they've played both already. Lost to them, but wasn't a blowout or anything, so they can prepare and see what they can do to try to turn the tables once if they get that far in the sectionals.
And Mark, your job entails covering a lot of teams, a lot of different parts of the state, trying to have a vast knowledge of what everybody expects you to know, right? So I guess I was wondering, just from you as a fan perspective, enjoying watching the game, enjoying covering the basketball in the state of Wisconsin, is there a team from up in our area that, selfishly maybe you want to see them down there so you get to watch them again because you kind of liked what you've seen already out of the season, or you know a lot about them?
Well, yeah, I think it's the 2 teams that you guys talked about. It's Marathon and Newman. Nothing against any of the other teams.
Right.
I'd love to see Medford get there. It'd be kind of cool to see. Marshfield. I know coaches there. I mean, and all those guys are really good people. So all the guys up in your neck of the woods are really work hard. Really are trying to improve their programs throughout the 12 months of the year. So, but if you look, okay, who's really got a chance to maybe come home with a trophy? Whether it's first or second. I would say it's probably those 2 Marywood South teams, at least in your neck of the woods. But both of them are going to encounter some really good teams along the way in the regional and sectional level. And, for Newman in particular, Jeff, this being a teacher over there, I mean, this is the year. I mean, when next year rolls around, they're probably, if they get double digits next year, I might walk to Wausau and cover a game.
Right.
Because they lose, I think they lose all 5 starters, right?
Yep.
And their first guy off the bench, I think they're all seniors.
Right.
So, it's kind of, I'm not saying now or never, because of course, who knows, Jeff, I think you have kids in the youth program. By the time they get up there, maybe they'll be back again. But, obviously Marathon, Brant would be back next year, but they have some seniors that that want to make that. And like I said, I think they've kind of been undervalued all winter. I've always voted for them in the coaches poll. I get one vote there, but if your record isn't real glittering, and if there's not a lot of coaches from your area that are voting, sometimes you get overlooked. Not intentionally, but sometimes it does happen. So I do think that both those teams have a shot of advancing pretty far in the postseason.
Well, Mark, again, really appreciate your time. Hopefully, Newman and/or Marathon can make it down. Love to see you down at the Kohl Center in a few weeks' time. But always appreciate your insights, and hopefully we can get you back on maybe after state. But that'd be terrific. But thanks again.
Yeah, thanks, Chad. I appreciate it. You guys do a great job. I always, sometimes my wife always says I can never get away from it, and there's probably some truth to that, because I like the fact that you archive your games and you do coaches interviews before and after. You don't always see that with radio broadcasts anymore. So kudos to you for doing that, and for even getting some kids on like you did tonight. That's really great for high school athletics in our state.
Well, I really appreciate that, and I appreciate everything you do as well. But again, thank you, Mark.
Okay, take care, guys.
Mark Miller from WisSports.net and the Wisconsin Basketball Yearbook. We're going to come back and talk some girls basketball. The playoffs are underway. A couple of teams actually won last night, so we'll talk about that and more coming up next here on the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. We got to talk about girls hoops, but hey, 3 guests are great, huh?
Yeah.
3 for 3 tonight.
Hey, good information from, you got to love the players and coaches' perspectives, and Mark, through the job he does, just a wealth of knowledge and informative on what's going on in the state.
Let's talk about the Wisconsin Valley Conference and girls basketball. They had some regular season games last Thursday, some interesting games I want to touch on before we talk about the playoffs. Thursday night, SPASH beat Rapids 78-39. Emma Josie, 35 points. Lauren Strassman, 15 points, 15 boards. Marshfield beat Wausau West 62-47. A game that was closer than that score would indicate. West had a 1-point lead at halftime, but Marshfield came back to win. Elena Busam at 27. Danny Minsaw, 16, all in the second half. Kelly Cray at 16 points and 14 boards for the Warriors. Kenzie Deaton, 14. Merrill beat DC Everest to complete a 500 record in the conference. A very impressive conference campaign for the Merrill Blue Jays. Maya Ott had 24 points. Elena Pozorski, 12. Prela Pyan, 11. Braylon Byler, boy, tough year for Everest, but she's been consistently a very solid performer for the Evergreens. She had 19 points. Lakeland beat Wausau East 81-25. Also, last night, the playoffs began for a pair of conference teams. Wausau East went way up north and a nice ride home, 67-48 winners over Ashland. And Wisconsin Rapids ended DC Everest campaign 53-38. So both East and Rapids continue.
Yeah, again, to get that first playoff game is a big deal. You want to get your season underway. You want to be performing well, and both did it by significant win totals with the amount of double-digit wins that they had. With those last couple regular season games, again, always kind of impressive that SPASH is holding an 11-1 mark and sitting at the top of the conference for the Valley girls this year. Weren't predicted to finish there, so it's nice to see people pop up there. Marshfield's been consistent, and West has kind of held to that third spot as of late as the Division I schools kind of get their playoff runs coming up at the end of this week.
Let's talk about Friday night for the Valley schools in D1. Wisconsin Rapids, boy, they go to Neenah. Boy, outstanding Neenah team. The number 1 seed. Stevens Point, as you said, the Wisconsin Valley Conference champions, number 8 seed, hosting number 9 Oshkosh West. If they win, likely have to go to Neenah on Saturday. Marshfield, number 6 seeded, takes on number 11 Holman. With a win, the Tigers would play Saturday, likely at number 3 Hortonville. Very good program themselves. They take on Oshkosh North on Friday. And then I will be at the West Fieldhouse on Friday night as the Wausau West Warriors take on number 10 seeded Appleton East. A win for the Warriors likely leads to a trip to Superior on Saturday. I'm ready for my long bus ride to Superior. Hopefully, Superior number 2 seed takes on Appleton West. As you look at those Valley teams and their Friday-Saturday combos, what do you think?
A little bit. I mean, I'm always it's just always amazes you a little bit to a degree that, SPASH holds true, plays some tough non-conference games, wins the Valley, and then they're fighting in an 8-9 seed, which, those are tough games to play in. You get the home game, but that team's...
the computer kind of hurt them, I think.
Yep. It puts it...
Because they were not able to take full advantage of beating West twice and beating Marshfield.
Right. That's another one of those ones we're talking about where the seed didn't work out for them through the computer. Marshfield has a nice route with that home game, but again, after these first-round games, things are going to, which they should, get a lot tougher with some of these next teams you're going to play when some of these teams are vying to get the first win just to go see number one seeded Neenah or Hortonville, who's had success. So
all these Valley teams likely would be on the road Saturday.
Yeah. So I think the Valley, as we saw last year, similar thing happened where that you might, if you can squeeze out that first one, the second one is very difficult in terms of the scheduling. But at that point, again, you come in as the underdog, you got nothing to lose, and you play hard.
Division 2, some area teams. Rhinelander from the GNC knocked off Medford 59-36. Ava Lamers had 20 points for the Hodags. They advanced to take on number 1 seeded New London on the road on Friday. Also, number 6 seeded Antigo earned a 72-35 win over number 11 Wapaka. So the Antigo Red Robins travel to Merrill. That's always that Highway 64 battle between the Blue Jays and the Red Robins. Merrill hosting. And also number 10, Wausau East. And I'm not surprised, to be honest with you. Again, I think East has shown glimpses this season and play, I think, in a tougher league. They went to Ashland, the number 7 seed, and the Lumberjacks knocked off Ashland 67-48. And we said that last Thursday they lost 81-25 to Lakeland. They go to Lakeland on Friday.
And that's the game I was going to point out is to jump back and have to play that tough game right away. You're happy to be in the next round of the playoffs, but a very tough opponent in terms of playing Lakeland right away. Merrill, Coach DeBoer was on very early in the season, talked about his strategy of how he scheduled his non-conference games, and it played out very well. They finished 500 in the Valley. The non-conference obviously did very well for him, and now we'll see a team in the Great Northern with the number 3 versus number 6 and got a nice seed there. So looking forward to seeing what they do as they host that home playoff game.
And real quick, Mosinee, a number 4 seed, takes on number 5 Shawano on Friday with a win. Mosinee takes on the winner of New London Rhinelander. And for Mosinee, after a very slow start, played much better coming down the stretch.
Right, and a good route. Again, 4-5 can be a tough push game with numbers so similar, but the teams are out of conference, and we'll see what happens. And Mosinee has gotten back on track a little bit after the coaching change. Division
4, we have teams both in Sectional 1 and Sectional 2. In Sectional 1, the number 1 seed is Phillips from the Merrillwood North. They take on number 9 seeded Chautauqua Weyerhaeuser on Friday. With a win, they would take on either number 5 Ladysmith or number 4 Grantsburg in a regional final on Saturday. On the other side, in sectional number 2, Marathon earned a 63-28 win over Nakusa last night. And congratulations to Coach Jeff Schneider, a guy that you've known for many years as well, has been on this show so many times, and Jeff Schneider is 300th career coaching win. So congratulations to Coach Schneider. And Marathon is at Auburndale on Friday night. That game can be heard live online at bullfallsradio.com and SportsStream 2 on Friday night, starting at 6:50 for the pregame. Winner of that one would move on to Saturday in a regional final against either number 1 seeded St. Mary Catholic or number 9 seeded Princeton Green Lake. Wittenberg-Burnhamwood, we've talked a lot about the Chargers this year. They're a number 3 seed. They take on number 6 seeded Stratford, who defeated Weyerhaeuser Fremont 56-21 on Tuesday night. Winner of Whitburn-Stratford will take on the winner of Westfield-Manawa on Saturday.
I guess start with Phillips. The good guard play. I think they're going to be a tough opponent and up through the regional final in that number 1 seed. Looking at Marathon, congratulations to Coach Schneider, 300. That's a big deal. It's quite an accomplishment. Should be very proud of that. Turn around and got a conference foe, just a team that's sitting ahead of them in Auburndale. They've had some good matchups with them this year.
The second meeting was in Auburndale. I did the game. Marathon had a 13-point lead in the second half. Tight game, went down to the wire. Auburndale pulled out a win. So Marathon showed that they can play with Auburndale. And Auburndale, again, up and down. They had a rather big loss to Edgar in the past week as well. So I think Marathon has a chance in that game.
Right, and Marathon's always, well coached, plays defensively. I think that's going to be a good battle to see at that spot. And for Wittenberg, continue to play, and we'll see where they kind of stack up against Samarowood and playing Stratford. I would think they should be able to beat Stratford, but again, you're getting across the conferences, so things can change. Things can be a little different as that happens.
And Division 5, a lot of action last night. Number 1 seeded Assumption, as expected, beat number 16 Port Edward 70-13. They take on number 9 seeded Pacelli. Pacelli went to Rochode, edged the Hornets 44-43. The winner of Assumption Pacelli Friday will take on the winner of number 5 Alman Bancroft and number 4 Iola Scandinavia in a regional final Saturday. Athens, the number 3 seed, defeated 14th seeded Rib Lake 63-29. Next for Athens is Marshfield Columbus. The number 6 seeded Dons defeated Northern Lutheran 67-28. The winner of Athens Columbus will take on the winner of Newman and Edgar on Saturday. Newman, the number 7 seed, wins their 5th game in a row. The Cards knocked off Gresham 69-52 last night, and they traveled to their Merriwood Conference South Division foe Edgar. Edgar defeated Tigerton by a score of 89-16, and in that game, Edgar had a 62-2 lead at halftime.
Well, I just take Newman, for example. They're playing well as a team.
Boy, their offense has come alive, hasn't it?
Yes, it's done done really well down the stretch lately with multiple players hitting multiple baskets and putting the ball in the hole a lot. And I think for them, they played Edgar tough twice this year. They've played them well right early out of the gates at the start of the season, played them well again in the second half. So I think with the
Cinderella?
I think the way those girls are playing, and I think if you had to pick the two, for Edgar coming off the win against Tigerton and Newman coming off the win against Gresham, you're a little bit more battle tested when the other team's in the game a little bit. You have to fight a little bit harder. So I think Newman's sitting in a really good spot. And looking at Athens, playing well again, looking to get back as that number coming through as that number 3 seed, looking to get back into those sectionals as soon as they can. And I guess who else do we miss?
Assumption, Pacelli.
Assumption, I think, they beat Port Edwards. They should beat Pacelli, and I think that'll be kind of a cool matchup to see when Newman and Edgar get through that, to see who they got down the stretch.
Got 30 seconds left. Your final thoughts as we head into a huge playoff weekend with the girls' basketball. And then, of course, next week, early on Tuesday, the boys tip off.
Thoughts are simple. This is what high school basketball is about. This is what these athletes train and prepare for and want to do well on, is showcasing themselves at the end of the season. And you get some very good games. You get some very good matchups, whether they're still in the conference for a third time or they're out of the conference because teams are crossing over in their playoff match. So I'd get out and support those high school athletes in your area as much as you can.
We'll see you next week.
Sounds good. Thanks, Chad.
That's the Big High School Sports Show on WXCO.